Zambia Blog Talk Radio.
Do you want to promote your business on Zambia Blog Talk Radio? Yes, that's right. Live on Zambia Blog Talk Radio. To book your spot, just make a donation by picking from the following categories. To get started, just call or WhatsApp the number on the screen and you'll be good to go. Live on Zambia Blog Talk Radio every Saturday for 1 full month. And it will stay on the recorded shows.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our special feature. First of all, let me apologize for us coming 2 hours late. We just thought that we would accommodate our guest, and he had some things going on behind the scenes, but we are on. We are on, and here we go. It's welcome to Zambia Blog Talk Radio. Please let me know where you're watching from in the comments and whichever part of the world that you are watching us from. It's good to have you. We're going to have an interesting discussion today. Like you heard me mention last week, we have Mr. Simuuwe, who is UPND consultant, and he's going to help us understand Mr. HH's style of leadership and the presidency. I presumably, from the way he's going to answer the questions, he has a relationship with the current president, and we want to know and where he is watching from. Okay. Hello, Dr. Musanje. Good to see you. And Philadelphia in the house. Next week, Eagles versus Kansas Chiefs. Let's see who is going to take that trophy. My number one cheerleader, Sister Clotilda. Hello, hello. Oh, you are back in Washington. All right. My busy, hardworking, traveling sister. All right. Hello, Mimi from New Jersey. Exciting. You guys, thanks for letting me know where you're watching from. Can we have some people from Zambia tell us? Let's see who's watching from Chinsali, Kitwe, Ndola, and all those places. Exciting, exciting. We're waiting for Mr. Simuuwe to log in. Get your questions ready and your comments. I'm going to make this pledge to you. I will literally read every comment and every question that is going to be posted, okay? This is about HH's presidency and leadership, okay? Hello, Priska, watching from Johannesburg. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Jobek is in the house. We're glad to see you, and it's exciting to have everybody joining us. All right, please share this link with your friends. And like Clotilda mentioned, pointed out to me, she stopped getting notifications when the show goes live on Facebook. I will get with my social media consultant to help me on that one, but I want to encourage everybody, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is simply ZBTR TV, and you'll be good to know. YouTube won't let you down. YouTube won't let you down. Immediately we go live, it will tell you that the show is on, and it's going to keep you. And okay. Hello, Teddy from, let me try to read this with my Mumfrida English. Wolverhampton. Did I get that right? Woo, Teddy Swila, excellent. Good to see you. And everybody, exciting. We're waiting for Mr. Simuuwe to call in. All right. Is HH micromanaging the country? All right. So immediately when we put up this flyer to say we're going to have this interview and this conversation, I appreciate every comment, every flyer, and I'm going to play some of the videos that some people sent me that were sent that we needed to show Mr. Simuuwe for him to respond to this. And is HH acting indecisively? You know, a lot of you have said it's about himself. Well, that's the way, that's your observation, that's your opinion. That's why we brought Mr. Simuuwe here, who knows HH. I believe they've known each other for years. We're going to ask him that question. What type of relationship does he have with him, and how well does he know him, so that we get to understand what is going on. And does he seem not to have settled into the presidency? Because some people have said to me, send me messages to say, why does he keep blaming PF? He should leave PF alone, move on, and do his job. So that is going to be our discussion today. And I don't know what is going on with Mr. Simuuwe, and let's see what is happening here. Everybody, thanks again. Those of you that have just joined us, let me know where you're watching from. It's important that we acknowledge you. And welcome to ZBTR. It is Saturday, 4th February. Wow, already. Oh, February is exciting because it's my birthday month. Betty, tell him he's live on his page, but he's not live here. He needs to log into the link. He needs to log into the link that I sent him, and then we can go. Then we can go from there. All right, and we are waiting for him here to be to join us for this exciting discussion. All right. Let me, my friend Kasulova is not here to help me out with this. Let me see if I can try and get to Mr. What's his name? To Mr. Simuuwe here and find out what is going on.
Amazing God, oh, you always come through for me. Amazing God, you always come through for me. Amazing God, oh, you always come through for me. Amazing God, you always come through for me. Amazing God, oh, you always come through for me. Amazing God, mind-blowing testimonies, jaw-dropping miracles you do. You always come through for me. Amazing God, what man calls impossible is possible with you.
Welcome back. I believe our guest is here, and we'll be talking about discussion, and we shall be getting underway. Mr. Simuuwe, I think his internet froze. All right. Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good to have you with us. And
fine, thank you. Though you are a bit low
on the volume.
Yeah, the volume is a bit low, but I'll attempt to get one or two.
Okay, let me try to see here and try to increase. Is that better?
Try to increase it again.
Is that better?
It is still too low. Not knowing what type of mic you are using, but can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can. Yeah, maybe I need to ask Mr.
I think we can proceed that way. I'll be able to attempt.
Okay, you'll be able to attempt. All right. Welcome to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Simuuwe is the UPND consultant, and is joining us to discuss. Our subject is the HH presidency. Mr. Simuuwe, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. How long have you known HH, and how would you describe your relationship?
Thank you very much. I have known HH for more than 10 years. Okay. And my relationship dates as far back as the time when I was executive producer for the University of Zambia Radio, and I was running a program on which I featured presidential candidates.
Yes.
Among them were Michael Sata, many other opposition leaders, and President HH himself in the opposition then. And it is from the University of Zambia that I started interacting with him. Oh, I would also hold discussion forums, which had an audience of students who were coming from different disciplines. And I would engage with the different civic leaders who include political leaders, and they would have an interactive discourse with the student audience. In many instances, I would be the one moderating these discussions, which primarily on governance, law reform, among other issues. So we've known each other for a very long time, and in the opposition, I happened to have had a hand in the UPND media team, which came up with strategies on how to bring down the then ruling party media propaganda. And a month later, I was pushed to play an advisory role to the Secretary General then, who is now the Zambian ambassador to the High Commissioner to Namibia, Honorable Stephen Katuka. So with that vast experience, I rose to where I am today. This time I'm with the current Secretary General, Honorable Batuke Imenda, who saw the UPND into the 2021 victory. And I have continued to interact with HH, starting from the opposition. Whenever he would be chairing the highest governing organ called the National Management Committee, I sit there as his secretary. To date, I remain secretary when he's chairing the highest governing body of the ruling UPND. So my relationship with him has not just been from the university, even on the political side, among other areas of communication.
Interesting. I'm glad you've given us that background, and there's an interesting point that you raise, which you say to counteract media propaganda. And I think basically that's what we are here to do, to work on and see how much of what we are hearing from the media and from the other political leaders, how much of it is authentic, how much is propaganda, how much is truth in it. Let me play a video clip, Mr. Simuuwe, before we proceed here, and I want you to respond to this, okay? Let me just play this.
Thank you, sir. Tulechula ubunga na budula. Itamulechula mwemukyalo kyeno ekiro kyakirikyo bwino bayikirema onenizyomulela ndoko ezituntulu bayikiremayo. It's not true what you are saying there. Bantu imwe bene imwe imumugeza wana wese bantu imwe munenyengerera kyabantu bokuti bakamugote nokuti bukabe bubuteko. You are not right. You see, it's not good at all. Because you cannot conclude. Your minute has been exhausted. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, that was a video clip when HH was in the opposition. The reason I play that is that the caller there accused Mr. Hichilema of lying his way into the presidency, okay? Like he was telling lies. There is this resounding accusation from other political leaders, Mr. Simuuwe, that he's a perpetual liar. And you've given us your background of how you know HH, how closely you work with him. What's your response to that allegation? Is the president a perpetual liar?
Thank you very much. I think when you are going to look at the governance system, we have to be a bit broad in the manner in which we look at the governance system of this country. And when you want to hold the president accountable, the best instrument that you have to push is the manifesto itself, the UPND manifesto, including what the president himself said when he was in the opposition, because what the president says becomes policy. Now, I want to quickly run you through what we consider to be strides that have been made. Strides where the opposition are only discussing 2-3 issues to the exclusion of all these strides. Number one, what kind of economy did we take off? Did we take over? We are taking over an economy that is debt choked. Which debt we are still discussing today in terms of debt structuring. We are taking over a country with a depleted treasury, in which government had reached an extent of failing to pay workers. Let me substantiate that. Council workers went as far as 7 months salary arrears, which arrears immediately the UPND took over leadership, started settling of 34,000 council workers, as if that wasn't enough, because we were taking over a government that owed so many people, including the farmers. 258,000 farmers were cleared all their money upon taking over leadership. The next thing that he did was to put in place a policy that was looking at face value as simply political rhetoric, and this is free education. Many of those that are in the opposition today said it was not practical. It has been actualized. The government is paying examination fees for all the candidates, the whole country, including user fees, and in addition to that, providing grants for schools to run their daily operations. Then what does he do? He goes an extra mile to reintroduce meal allowances in public universities. As I'm talking to you, about 5 public universities in Zambia have so far started receiving meal allowances for students. The previous government scrapped off meal allowances because in Zambia, public universities are the only universities where children coming from very poor families but with an intellectual capability would go and learn and get an education, because our understanding is that the education is an equalizer. And it's for this reason that we believe that education is an investment and not an expenditure and not a cost. That is number one. That is on the education part. You may also wish to know that when you go to the Ministry of Health, the allocation towards the purchase of medicine when we took over leadership was about 1.4 billion kwacha. In the 2022 national budget, it rose to about 3.6 billion kwacha. 3.4 billion kwacha, meaning there was an upward adjustment of the money allocated towards the procurement of medicine. But the question is, did we address the problem of scarcity of medicine in hospitals in totality? The answer is no. What we did was to move the percentage in terms of the purchase of medicine from about 30% to 53%. The WHO threshold is about 70% and up. Right now, Zambia stands at 53. What that means is that we have moved from 30% to 53% in terms of the procurement of medicine in hospitals. In the year 2023, we are around 4.6 billion, meaning there is another upward adjustment, which should take us somewhere to closing the gap between 53% and 70%, which is the WHO threshold. Let me move further. The Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR, last year, as at October, published their food basket and projected the basic needs basket for a family of 5 at 312 kwacha 0.6 Simuuwe reduction in the cost of living in Zambia. This is a credible institution run by the Catholic that has conducted a number of research works in this country. In addition to that, it was our message to the people of Zambia that inflation will be reduced. Today, as I'm speaking to you, inflation stands at single digits. In addition to that, we move to other areas of the economy because people enjoy talking about the basic necessities. The recording you played was talking about Western administration. I'm giving you statistics. A 5 liters of cooking oil then was costing about 285 kwacha. As I'm talking to you, a 5 liters of cooking oil in Zambia is going at 185 kwacha. Now,
Really?
there is one fundamental issue that has made people to begin bickering, and it has to do with the cost of milling meal, which cost of milling meal has also being attended to, because you see, development is not an event, it is a process. In other words, there are things that need instant action and certain things that can be achieved in a graduating manner. Things like the cost of milling meal. Because from an economic standpoint, you are aware that if the cost of producing maize still places agro inputs like fertilizer at 800 kwacha, it is absurd for anyone to think that the cost of milling meal could jump from 150 to 50 kwacha immediately. You must first of all address the cost of producing maize. But what does it take for a country like Zambia, which is not producing fertilizer to meet the demand? Over 70% of what we are consuming in the agricultural sector is imported. Then you have to rely on the private sector, where the market price internationally of the cost of fertilizer per ton stands at $600 or $650. When government opens up for people to tender, they are quoting government at 1,300 per ton, about 100% added. Where does that leave the price of fertilizer on the market? It will still remain high. So as a remedial measure, what the government has done is to engage a cooperating on an equity partner from the United States of America to come and partner with Zambian fertilizer manufacturers so that we can begin producing fertilizer locally. I'm sure you followed the address by the president at State House a few weeks ago. He did allude to that particular aspect, meaning these are certain things that we can do in a graduating manner, but not in an impromptu manner. They have to be dealt with steadily. They cannot be taken as single entities to the exclusion of the achievements that are earlier alluded to. The next point I want to talk about.
Before Mr. Simuuwe,
the government owed, yes.
Mr. Simuuwe, hold. You see, all of us are impressed with what you have tabulated and the things, the free education and all these things. One tends to get the impression that the economy is slipping out of his hands. There are certain things like you have tabulated which seemingly are steps forward, strides, achievements, if you want to put it that way. But what is happening? How do you explain the price of milling meal? How do you explain the price of petrol of changing every month? You know that the price of petrol affects a lot of things. The delivery of goods, transportation. Majority of Zambians use public transport. How do you explain that? We've heard your tabulation of the successes. How do you explain which seemingly seems to look like a runaway economy? How do you explain that?
Thank you. Let me start with the milling meal. You may recall that milling meal, or rather shima, is a staple food in this country. Now,
yes,
it is a business trend that for every grain farmer, it is known that the best time to sell maize in Zambia is during the farming season because it fetches a good price. So it goes that when you produce maize at the end of your harvest, many a time when farmers will be advised to keep their maize and only sell around October, November because it fetches a good price. The business trend is that in the rain season, the price of that grain goes up. And so there are a number of factors that come into play. Number one, you talked about fertilizer. I mean, fuel, which is used for transporting maize, which is also used for transporting milling meal. You may wish to know that right now, there is no country in the world which has cheap fuel. If we are going to talk about political rhetoric, at the time that UPND was campaigning, there was no oil in Ukraine. As I speak to you, the United States of America 2-3 days ago announced that some of the states in the eastern states may be affected by the happenings in the Middle East because of the cutting off of certain supplies. Now, that does not only affect the eastern states of the United States of America. It is a global crisis. The neighboring countries in Southern Africa all have expensive fuel, and many of them more expensive than Zambia. So the trajectory that has been proclaimed by the opposition has been done to the exclusion of a comparative analysis between the price of fuel in Zambia and neighboring countries. I was in Tanzania just a few weeks ago. We are still purchasing fuel. Tanzanians at Tunduma are still crossing the border to purchase fuel in Zambia. Let me deal with the issue of changing the price of fuel on a monthly basis. You may wish to know that from the time we took over leadership in Ndeni, which is based on the copper belt of Zambia, which has been used as a separator for many years, was found to be obsolete. At the time of the previous government, they decided to shut it down because the cost of maintaining it was more than finding an alternative source through oil marketing companies or OMCs. So the Patriotic Front then decided to even engage cadres with the tankers to supply fuel to this country. I'm sure you know that is on record. Which tankers during the transition were abandoned in some parts of Tanzania by the cadres and ran away. Now, as if that is not enough, it meant that the government then stopped purchasing fuel. Purchase of fuel was left to OMCs. To date, OMCs are purchasing fuel. Now, the same OMCs, Engine, Total, Puma, which are international entities, will tell you that the source price is fluctuating depending on the activities in the Middle East. Now, for you to provide a business sense, you need to know that if the wholesaler changes the price on a monthly basis, the retail price will be affected. And this is the notorious fact that exists in this country. Right now, if you as government, you impose a standard price for the whole year, this is what we are likely to get. Many of these oil marketing companies will not supply. There will be shortage of fuel in the country. It is happening in those countries where they are putting standard prices. When it goes up and the government does not consider the profit margin, oil marketing companies will not supply because there is no business sense. That is what is happening. The profit margin for oil marketing companies has remained constant. And so it is important for me to state at this juncture that the noisiest debate is when the fluctuating price goes up. When the government reduces it on a monthly basis, everyone celebrates. So we need to face facts. There is no country in the world with cheap prices of fuel. And all of us must live with this reality. Now, because you have a president who has a team with progressive minds, he is not just seated waiting for the world price to go down. He has come up with a long-term solution. Just recently, he went and signed an agreement with Angola to commence the construction of an oil pipeline from Angola to Zambia, which is about 15% of that particular investment, which is a landmark agreement which we need to talk about, all of us, because then it deals with the challenges that confront the region. In addition to that, you are aware that many countries like South Africa, Nigeria, and Angola have shut down their refineries. They are very expensive to run. So those are realities that are happening in Southern Africa. Unfortunately, we can only talk about doubting government here, the new Dawn government, if the price of fuel was above the market price. That is my submission to that.
Okay. The Zambians are smart people. They will figure out your response by themselves. The other aspect of the energy crisis, Mr. Simuuwe, is an embarrassment. Firstly, this government promised that it would do away with load shedding. The country enjoyed a little bit of time without load shedding. Boom, it came back. So my question to you is that we've only heard from the ZESCO board chairman. The ZESCO board chairman is neither a policymaker nor the custodian of the daily operations of ZESCO. Why isn't the energy minister speaking? What really is going on with load shedding, Mr. Simuuwe? What really is going on?
Thank you. Thank you. You see, announcing the activities of load shedding is not prescribed by law to an individual.
Okay.
The minister can announce. There are a number of players that can announce. The minister can announce. The PS Energy Permanent Secretary for Energy Ministry can announce. ZESCO itself, ZESCO PR can announce. You can have someone from ZESCO board chairperson, the people that now manage ZESCO itself, from the human resource point of view, or any other activities that ZESCO engages in, including contractual issues, which is the board, they can as well announce. So there is no prescribed legislation on who should announce. So that particular argument, obviously, is neither here nor there. Now, let me get to the issues of load shedding. Indeed, the campaign message was that we have to end load shedding. And immediately we took over leadership. Load shedding came to an end. But then what is the existing state of affairs surrounding this load shedding? Before I get to what is happening in Zambia, I need to also submit to you that South Africa was even badly hit. As at October last year, September last year, they had many hours of load shedding, which were announced on international news agencies. Zimbabwe went to 24 hours of load shedding. South Africa went to 18 hours of load shedding. Today, as we speak, South Africa has announced a permanent load shedding system. What is happening in Zambia then, while this is going on with our neighboring countries? Immediately, the situation worsened in Kariba Dam, which is our biggest hydropower station. Immediately, the situation worsened. And we had a week of seriously heated debates from the opposition and other stakeholders. The president came out of his working holiday and provided instant remedial measures. What were those measures? Which produced instant results. He first of all visited Mamba Collieries, which has at one point supplied electricity to ZESCO, or sold electricity. We discovered that Mamba Collieries was owed over 500 million, okay, by ZESCO. So now, when that was discovered, we have a negotiator in State House. It was a point of negotiation. The president, together with his team, had to engage Mamba Collieries on the payment plan, and they agreed. 50% paid already. The other remaining 50% paid at the close of the year. All that backlog of money was left by the previous government. So I'm trying to give you a picture. I'm coming.
Yeah, Mr. Simuuwe. And that's
yes.
The other thing that people are saying. Can he please stop blaming the PF and just do the work? I'm
coming. I'm glad that you have brought out that. Now, that is propaganda. You see what is happening is that when it goes up, they want to compare with the way it was at PF time. When we want to talk about a positive, they don't want to compare. That's propaganda. That is propaganda. Now, that is how they're trying to attune the minds. They don't want citizens to be reminded of their atrocities. When they believe that what they want to compare with, provides them with a positive platform, they want to use that comparison. But if the ruling party wants to bring in a progressive idea against a bad idea, then they don't want us to compare. Now, what kind of politics is that? So now let me score by indicating that remedial measures have been found. Number one, the president managed to secure 34 megawatts from Mamba, 137 megawatts from Mamba Collieries, 137. Then the president managed to secure 34 megawatts from Copper Belt Energy. He further managed to secure about 60 megawatts from the mines, which was lying idle. Further to that, securing more from Ndola Energy, about 105 megawatts, which may also be used for exports. So you can see that the moment this was done, there was an immediate trickle-down effect on the hours of load shedding in Zambia. ZESCO went on the podium and announced immediately that load shedding would reduce. As I'm speaking to you now, in many parts of the country, load shedding has stopped. In some parts of the country, it has reduced to 2 or 3 hours. Meaning, whereas other countries are announcing a permanent system of load shedding, we have a solution in this country to demonstrate that you have a crop of leaders that have the capacity to turn around the economy, who are able to find solutions that not add more problems. That's the type of leadership that you've been presented with. So that is the existing state of affairs currently. In addition to that, he has also found a lasting solution by getting an investor from Abu Dhabi who is coming to come up with renewable energy, smart energy, which will produce about 2,000 megawatts of electricity through that power plant that will be set up with Zambia as a long-term plan. So I can announce with confidence that there is an immediate solution. At the same time, a long-term plan has been put in place.
Okay. Our topic is the HH presidency. And
correct.
You see, in your speaking, Mr. Simuuwe, I hear you, he has done this, he has secured this, he went to Mamba and did this. Brings me to this critical question. Is HH micromanaging the country? Because we are not hearing from the cabinet ministers. Even the government spokesman is mute. HH has done this. HH has done this. Where are the ministers? Where are the team players?
Thank you. Now, I think what should be made very clear is that if you talk about the Minister of Education, if you've been following deliberations in our parliament, the one who has been giving reports on what is happening in the Ministry of Education is the Minister of Education. When you talk about the local government, the one who has been talking about the local government is the Minister of Local Government. When you talk about the Energy Minister, Kapala himself has been on the media talking about energy. But like I mentioned to you, that there are so many people that can bring out the information.
Yeah,
and then what the new Dawn government is bringing to the fore is a change in which previously the president could not easily face the public to explain challenges confronting the government and remedial measures to challenges that confronted the government. This time, we have a head of state that is able to face the media head on without much difficulties. And this is the situation. I think
right
it is
there. Right
yes.
there. You see what? I like that point that you have brought up, where you're comparing Edgar to HH. Edgar was an absent leader, HH. You see, the people are saying we've gone from one extreme to another extreme. How do you explain? What's your response to that?
It depends on where you stand. If you are talking about the previous government, and then you go and take a microphone to the opposition, who are in a queue for prosecution, you must be intelligent enough to know that even in independent international bodies have conducted research works on Zambia on corruption, abuse of fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens, a limited political space, gagging of freedom of expression. I want to tell you what is happening. There is too much freedom currently that you can hear so many voices of the opposition. Not at that time. Today, the media is covering 70% of the opposition without government interfering with the operations of the media or questioning a media house on who to feature, which was not fashionable then. And so it's normal to hear so many overtones of the opposition trying to cover the progressive voice on what government has achieved. So, in terms of moving from better to worse, I mean, that is purely based on where you stand. But the truth of the matter is that we have a likable president, not only locally, but internationally. He knows what he's doing. Every trip that he has gone to, he is able to justify the trip and also able to justify what is coming out of the trip. So the fruits are there for everybody to see. It is not easy to reduce inflation from double digit to single digit in less than a year. And to also manage your expenditure within the target. And also collect revenue beating the target. That is an achievement. Today, Zambia becomes one of the best tourist destinations Today, Zambia becomes one of the best investment destinations. The international airport around 15, you'd think it's one of the airports in the United States of America. How busy they are. If you're not careful, you may not even have the parking space.
I appreciate your comment, Mr. Simuuwe, about likable president, these achievements. And remember what we used to say to Dr. Kaunda, Mr. Simuuwe, we are not going to eat peace and stability. The people are not going to eat a likable president. The people are not going to eat inflation rate coming down and all these things. Let's move on. Let me make this question. Was there communication, or what really happened when HH made the statement counteracting what Gary Nkombo said about street vendors? What happened there?
You see, there is no miscommunication there. First of all, ministries have been made to run independently, and ministers running those ministries. But the president is the supervisor of the ministers. It does not mean that when a position has been put to hold, it demonstrates miscommunication. Actually, to the contrary, it demonstrates order, that the president is in charge of the country. The president is in charge of the governance system. The president did not stop the action of Honorable Gary Nkombo. He only put the decision on hold on the pretext that there is need for us to be more consultative and to have an all-inclusive approach towards cleaning up the city and ending street vending. That was the position. Now, like I mentioned, that one who does not understand the decision that informed that particular action would conclude that there was poor communication. But it definitely demonstrates government's integrated approach to governance, that you have a president who is in control of what is happening in the country. And it is more reasonable, because you need to also reflect. It is reasonable to take everyone on board. It is not enough to clear everyone off the street without providing an alternative trading area. If sufficient inclusive dialogue has not been undertaken, it is only right that a responsible leader puts a particular decision to a halt until such a time when everyone is carried on board. I think the Honorable Minister of Local Government a day ago clarified that. Thank you.
Okay, let me read. Let's take some comments here from our people watching. We have a comment here from Pennsylvania from Dr. Munsanje, Mr. Simuuwe. Says the transfer of Anthony Bwaria as presidential advisor has been reported as tribal oriented. What is your comment?
Thank you. For many of you that understand every governance system, you need to understand that many people that have pushed that agenda have pushed that agenda without giving details as to why Anthony Bwaria was transferred to another area. So if the only position that you'd take is a tribal position, that is not a fair way of approaching matters. Government is so big. Assuming that it was a tribal position, perhaps the right thing that could have been done was to remove him completely from the government. You may wish to know that where he has been deployed, he's going to represent the government. Embassies are the government. When you are to the Zambian embassy, you are basically dealing with the Republic of Zambia. So now, I think this is the rhetoric that would want to dance to at the expense of very critical and thematic areas of governance. If you want to understand the manner in which HH has provided an all-inclusive leadership, you first start by looking at the cabinet. From independence, this is the most balanced cabinet that you've ever had. You can argue with me by getting the facts straight. The only cabinet that represents all the regions in the country. As if that is not enough. When it comes to the recruitment process, if there are 3,000 spaces, those spaces are divided by 10 provinces. This is the only time when you have an all-inclusive approach to the governance system. So the idea of tribalism is neither here nor there.
Okay.
If there was tribalism, why would it be about Anthony Waza and not other people in the cabinet? Have you, first of all, looked at the people that are pushing this ethnic hegemony and where they're coming from? Because they are being hypocritical. If you go back to their cabinet, I was just demonstrating it on another program I was featuring on an hour ago.
Yes.
You get just ESCO or the boards were representing one region or two regions. Today, you have a concoction of that national character, and you can proudly say that something serious is being done. Now, people wanted to satisfy their vocabulary by pushing a tribal agenda. It is nice to talk about certain things, but it is also good to listen and
That's
to also
true.
research and go back, introspect. Look at the type of government they were running. And the people that are saying that is a tribal issue, they have once been given an opportunity to be ministers of foreign affairs, in which time the foreign mission was ridden with one group or two regions. HH has brought in a different dimension where we are dealing with unity in diversity, where we believe that our common enemy is not tribalism. Our common enemy is poverty. And to deal with this poverty, we need unity of purpose.
That's true.
I think that is the fair way of approaching the governance system in a multilingual society like this country. Thank you.
Let me read another comment here. This comment, the theme of this comment actually is what also prompted this conversation with you and me. From Derek in Houston, Texas. UPND government needs to overhaul their PR strategy. It's letting them down. They are not good communicators. You hear that?
Thank you very much. As you may understand also that when you talk about them not being communicators, the first question that you ask, of course, weaknesses could be there, admittedly. Just like in any other organization, if you have to look for them, then the question that remains is, what is it that has not been given by the government, which you want to know? Which has not been explained. What is it? If you answer that question, then you know that talking is good, but it is also good to listen.
Mr. Which has not been explained. I just mentioned to you that the ministers are mute. We don't hear from them, except for this press conference, which was held a few days ago, where they were basically doing what you're doing, just tabulating what has been done. That's the communication is not good. I'll tell you that. We are not hearing from anybody except the president.
Now, if you decide not to listen, you will not listen. Because I'll tell you that just a day ago, we had a press conference of ministers.
That's
and
what
you
I'm
had,
saying.
I will just give you an example. I'm coming.
Okay. That press conference after how many months, Mr. Simuuwe? After how many months?
To communicate an idea does not always require a press conference. Ministers are appearing on community radio stations that don't reach the United States of America. Almost everywhere, they are engaging.
No, I didn't
not always
everything. It's not me.
Running the government is not just about talking. Running the government is about turning around the economy. So, if the president has communicated the idea, just like the minister may communicate in a press conference, I don't see anything wrong. But admittedly, we have ministers that are talking, of course. Some of them are not gifted. They are talking. They are using technocrats to communicate ideas. It is agreed. But at the end of the day, it does not affect the manner in which government runs. I think it only affects the information gap. Which information gap I've come to? And I'm saying, what is it that you want to know under which ministry, which has not been explained, so that we can explain?
Okay, I think we'll leave that to the viewers to communicate to
Thank
us.
you.
Let's read the other comment here from Miss Rebecca. She said, is it true that the president doesn't talk to most of his ministers and MPs? Is he running the government alone and nobody says anything? He does not listen to anyone. Please clarify.
Thank you very much. You see, there is no president who visits ministries anyhow. The principle of running the government is that every week cabinet is held, in which the president meets with his ministers. Next week on Monday, they are having a cabinet meeting. So the fact that the cabinet meeting is never announced does not mean the president does not interact with his ministries. Now, all that is propaganda, where you'd want to position the head of state in a negative sense. If you choose to do that, you will qualify. But does that reflect the reality on the ground? Not at all. On a weekly basis, the president has cabinet meetings. It is a statutory obligation. Thank you.
Then, like we are saying, maybe those cabinet meetings should be mentioned. They say, oh, the president at the cabinet meeting, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I've just given you an example. That on a Monday, there's a cabinet meeting. But
yes.
Read that way. Even in USA, they will never be announcing every time that the President Biden is meeting his senators and so on at every point. I think those are issues that we can separate from governance issues and focus on critical things that directly affect you. Thank you.
Well done. Good. Probably my final question. I don't have any more comments or questions from the viewers. Why has it taken him so long to fill the positions, especially in the diplomatic service? Have all the embassy's positions now been filled? If not, why not? What's going on?
Thank you very much. I think you need to also appreciate the fact that recalling individuals from the embassy is a cost. It is not just something that comes by decree. So if you are running a responsible government in which you are discussing debt restructuring among other issues, you must do certain things in an organized and methodical way. I think it is not an issue of rushing to fill in vacancies. The question is there a gap arising from the pace at which these embassies are being filled? I don't think anybody will be able to give us the answer. Thank you.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Simuuwe with us today. I've enjoyed this, and it was a good engagement because people want to know the type of leadership governance coming from HH and the way he does things.
I appreciate the initiative as well very much, and I wish to implore you to continue providing such a platform, which is quite interactive, and it also brings to the fore certain things that are taking place and certain stories that have gone unreported. I really appreciate your initiative. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll be reaching out to you whenever we need to sort of build
I'm very much available.
Or certain things explained. Mr. Simuuwe, ladies and gentlemen, UPND consultant, joining us today to explain HH's style of leadership and what is going on behind the scenes. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with us, especially that we had to bring this broadcast 2 hours later than our usual broadcast time, because Mr. Simuuwe had an engagement earlier, and we appreciate him taking time to be with us. Next weekend, we'll be talking to Miss Zambia. She's the ambassador of corruption. How do we engage the youth in participating in the issue of combating corruption in Zambia? Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next Saturday at the same time.
Do you want to promote your business on Zambia Broad Talk Radio? Yes, that's right. Live on Zambia Broad Talk Radio. To book your spot, just make a donation by picking from the following categories. To get started, just call or WhatsApp the number on the screen and you'll be good to go. Live on Zambia Broad Talk Radio every Saturday for 1 full month. And it will stay on the recorded shows.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.